Hey guys, this is Amber with StoryChasing, and today I'm going to share with you my 9 secret stealth camping spots that I have been using over the last 5.5 years that I have been RVing. I've learned quite a lot on where to urban stealth camp or even rural stealth camp, and I'm going to share those with you today. Today I'm actually in Southern California. I've got my doors opened up to the ocean, so you might hear a little bit of those ocean waves. It's places like this that I like to come to throughout the season so that I can enjoy the beaches. And a lot of times, in order to stay by the beaches for free, without paying for an RV spot, you have to urban camp or maybe pull over into one of my secret spots that I'm going to be talking to you about in this video. One of the other things that I'm going to share with you about my 9 secret stealth camping spots is the pros and cons of each area, so you know exactly what to expect when you get there. Some of these places that I'm going to share with you are really beautiful, so places like pulling off by the beach, and some of them are just going to be spots that are along the way maybe when you're traveling to another destination, but they're going to be quick and easy for you. So let's get started. The first stealth camping spot that I'm going to talk about is hotel parking lots. I've never actually shared hotel parking lots as a stealth camping option before on my channel, even though you've probably seen some of the shots in my videos. I just haven't showed the hotel. Some of the pros about the hotel stealth camping parking is that 1, it's very, very convenient off of a freeway. There's a lot of hotels that are off of freeways. So when you're going from one destination to another, you can pull off quickly, park for the night, get some sleep, and then get back on the road. The second pro about hotel stealth camping is that it's generally safe. How I select my hotels is I check for hotels that don't actually require a tag on the cars. So you don't have to register your car at the front desk. So if you look in the parking lot as you're driving through, just check to see if there's any cars that have tags on them. The nicer the hotel, the more likely that they're going to want you to register your vehicle, so I wouldn't stay there. So just be selective and careful when you're picking your hotel. Don't abuse it, don't put your slides out, don't do any of those things to cause attention to yourself. If you've watched my video before on stealth camping and is it illegal and all the ins and outs of it, you'll learn exactly what stealth camping is and the do's and don'ts of stealth camping. So make sure you watch that video. I'm going to put it at the end of this video so you can click on it right after this one. So one of the cons about staying at a hotel is that sometimes it can be noisy because guests are coming in and out of the hotel and they're getting in and out of their cars, they're talking loud at night, they might be out there drinking or eating their food depending on what kind of a hotel you stay at. Don't stay there for weeks at a time and expect that this is a camping spot for you, because it's not. It's just a way to get in and out quickly when you're traveling. So one of my other convenient stealth camping options is a rest area. Now each state is different and you will have to look at that to find out if you can actually stay in that rest area off of the highway. A lot of times when you pull into the rest stop, it'll tell you can stay there for 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes 8 hours. Like, it really just depends on the state, the county, and the area. One of the pros about staying at a rest area is that it's just super convenient. You can pull off of the highway, rest for the night, you can walk your dog, there are bathrooms over there. Sometimes they even have vending machines, and if you're in Washington State, they actually have coffee at some of the rest areas. My 2 favorite states for rest areas are Washington and Texas. They have amazing rest areas where you can also dump your tanks and fill up on water. Not every rest area has it, but a lot of them do. Some of the cons of staying in a rest area is that it can be noisy, especially if you're near the semi trucks. Because I'm in a van, I always go to the car auto section, and then there's a semi truck section. Usually they could be on 2 opposite sides of the building that has rest areas. If you have a small enough van, a car, or an RV, you can park in the auto section and it's gonna be a little bit quieter for you. If you have to park in the semi truck section, you can bet that there's probably going to be noise, especially if it's really hot outside. They're going to be running those semi truck engines all night long so that they can run their AC. And of course, cars and RVs and semi trucks are always going in and out of rest areas. One of the other cons is that be selective when you're checking these rest areas and staying overnight. There can be some kind of sketchy ones. Most of them, I'd say 95% of the time that I've been to rest areas, they've been perfectly fine. There's generally a lot of people there, so you don't have to really worry as much. So kind of the safety in numbers philosophy, if you will. My third stealth camping spot is to park in residential areas. Residential areas can be very, very, very tricky, and you want to be careful with this. You don't want to cause alarm to your neighbors in the area, and can force them to call the police and say, hey, there's this weird van or RV out there. Now, RVs typically are not going to be able to do this. You're just too big to be in these residential areas. That can really depend on the area, so don't completely discount it. But if you're in a car, an SUV, or a van, it's going to be perfectly fine for you. 2 rules of thumb with going to a residential area is to arrive late and leave early. You just want to make yourself as inconspicuous as possible when you're in these areas so that you don't get a knock on the door. Some of the pros about being in a residential area is that you can go there in a pinch. It's usually very easy. There's a ton of residential areas around, so it's just convenient. The other pro is that it can be really quiet a lot of times, especially at night after everybody's settled down and gone to bed. It's pretty quiet and you're gonna get a really good night's sleep. Some of the cons are you might potentially get a knock on the door. Scope out the area, use some apps. iOverlander is a really great app to find those locations. One of the other cons that I was kind of alluding to earlier is that you have to be careful where you park. So don't pick a neighborhood that's super fancy because you're pretty much guaranteed you're gonna get a knock on the door. You don't wanna stay in anything that's like too low end that you feel like maybe you're not gonna be safe. Sometimes industrial areas can be that way too. So pick like a middle of the road area where you feel like it's quiet, it's safe, and you're just not gonna get that knock. So that's just gonna come with practice and in time, kind of scoping those areas out and figuring that out. One of the don'ts, I'm just gonna mention it in this video, is don't park right in front of somebody's house. Find an area where there's a corner or there's an empty lot and kind of park in front of that, but like somewhere where the homeowner isn't gonna be creeped out because you're parked right in front of their house. Because I guarantee you, they're looking out the window at you and figuring out what in the heck you're doing in front of their house. So my 4th beautiful, beautiful stealth camping spot typically is at marinas. Now, marinas are cracking down a little bit more and more on people actually parking there. They're most likely going to post signs if they don't want you there. So check the signs around the area, drive through the lots, and figure out what their rules are there. A lot of times you can even go on their website and it'll tell you rules for parking in that particular marina. Some of the pros are that you can get really, really beautiful spots by the water and all the boats, and it just runs the gamut of all the different wildlife that can be out there. So it can be a really, really beautiful experience. And a lot of times it's actually quiet at night too there. Once everything settles down from the hubbub of the day of people pulling their boats in and out and walking around, believe it or not, a lot of people actually walk around the marinas because it's just beautiful. So you're not gonna get all those walkers and stuff at night. The other pro is that it can generally be cooler at night because you're by the water. So you're gonna get that breeze off of the water that's just gonna feel so much better. One of the cons is that the marinas can be noisy during the day, especially in the morning, because a lot of people are coming out and launching their boats. By the way, guys, if you are loving this content, please do me a solid and share this video with someone who you think might be able to use it, which I think a lot of people do. They want to know where to stealth camp. It's one of the questions that I get a lot, but if you share this video, it helps other people, of course, see this content, and why wouldn't you want to help somebody out? Sometimes you have boat launches that are not necessarily marinas. So I have found a lot of boat launches over the years that are really quiet. A lot of them can be in rural areas as well, not necessarily just in urban areas. Some of the pros for being near the water are it's going to be cooler at night. You're gonna have more beautiful views. If you're a fisherman, you might even be able to go fishing over there. The other pro is that it's generally gonna be quiet at night so you can get a good night's sleep. There's a couple of cons that I have about boat launches, and that is that it can be noisy. So what I have found is the closer you are to a city, the more people come out at night and they party and they might play loud music and then they'll leave. But it can be like really to the early hours of the morning that they're doing this. It might not exactly be quiet. One of the other cons is that it can feel very isolating there. So if you're a person that hasn't stealth camped very much, hasn't stayed on their own very much out in the wild, you might feel a little uneasy and maybe not safe being out there. You're gonna have to really get a good feel of that when you're there. I have been to some places where I've been completely on my own and it's been like kind of in a rural area and I've been fine, but it'll get really dark out and you can't see anything unless you have a bright moon. But I still love it. I've stayed on my own a lot. You're gonna have to gauge that based on your own comfortability with staying by yourself in a place that can be really dark where you can't see and there's nobody around. So my 6th stealth camping spot is Home Depot. You might find that to be funny. So a lot of Home Depots actually let you stay in their parking lot. On the pro side, it can be really convenient to stay at Home Depots because they're just everywhere in a lot of cities, even in rural areas. And the other thing is that there's a lot of spaces, and generally it's quiet at night after all of the noise from the day and the shoppers have left. Some of the cons is that, well, it's going to be noisy during the day. So if you decide to hang out in the area for several days and you want to stealth camp there, well, just know that during the day you're probably going to get some noise because there's going to be shoppers, there's going to be carts, they're moving big items around, tools and supplies and all of these kinds of things. So it may not be the great place to stay during the day, but you can leave, go to a nice park, get a good walk over there, and then come back to the Home Depot at night. So with this, you want to be careful too. You don't want to cause alarm. You don't want to cause them to recognize you as staying there for like 2 weeks at a time and then kick you out and make it bad for everybody else. Be as stealthy as possible. Don't cause a lot of attention to yourself. Don't put all your slides out everywhere. Don't put your awning out. Don't put your chairs out into the parking lot. Go to a park to do that. So my 7th place to stealth camp, and absolutely one of my favorite places, is at a trailhead. It's beautiful and it feels good to be in nature, and it's generally quiet. It's gonna be a little bit louder during the day because of the noise from the trailhead and people going in and out, but you're gonna be in nature. There's gonna be some beautiful, beautiful hiking options for you there and some ability to walk around that area. Sometimes trailheads could even be close to places like little restaurants and stuff that you could go to, just depending on where it is in the city. One of the cons of a trailhead is that there's not generally a ton of people who will park at trailheads, and you might feel isolated and you might feel uneasy because you are by yourself, especially again if it's really, really dark at night and you can't see anything outside. I know I keep talking about places that you're staying where you might feel uneasy because it's so dark outside, and there's another way that I actually kind of overcome that is I buy this little light here. I'll link this down in the description box so that you can find it, but it's magnetic and you actually put it on the side of your RV or any place that has metal on the outside. I have 2 of these, and what I do with them is I put them outside on either side of my van so that I can see who is ever out there because it's motion censored. That way, if you're in your RV or your van and you hear something outside and you're wondering if someone is around your vehicle, the light will come on and you can actually look out the window and see them. Otherwise, typically you can't see outside because your windows might be tinted. The other thing is that if you turn the lights on in here and there really is someone outside and it's really dark out, they're gonna see you, but you're not going to see them. So this is a really great option to put out there. The 8th stealth camping spot that I'm gonna share with you today is pullouts on the side of the freeway or a road. One of my absolute favorite places to stay in a pullout is on the Pacific Coast Highway going from Washington to California. Now here's the thing with these pullouts. Not all of them are created equal. If they're closer to a town or a city, a lot of times they have put notifications out there that you cannot stay there overnight. So look for those signs. Don't stay there overnight if the signs say not to. But in a lot of areas, especially Oregon is really, really great for this, and parts of Northern California before you hit San Francisco, if you're coming from the north, is a lot of cool places to stay out in a pullout off of the Highway 1. Of course, one of the pros is that it's going to be beautiful. It's overlooking the ocean. Now, this is on the Pacific Coast Highway. I've stayed in other pullouts as well, but I'm kind of careful where I stay. I don't want to pull out into an area that's super busy. I always think about like if someone has a crash in the middle of the night, are they going to hit me? So those things go through my head. So I find a pullout that's pretty wide and not, you know, where the edge is so close to the highway that someone might also sideswipe me. So you want to be careful when you're picking out pullouts to stay in. Of course, some of those pros again is beautiful scenery possibly. It might be in nature, and it can be very quiet at night depending on the area. Some of the cons of the pullouts is that, again, you might feel uneasy, so grab one of those lights if you're feeling uneasy about staying by yourself out there at night. It can be noisy, of course, until all the traffic dies down and it does get dark at night. And then the third con is that you might not have cell signal depending on the area. There's a ton of pull-offs, of course, that have cell signal. The 9th stealth camping spot, oh, I left the best, I think, for the last, is beach areas. So beach areas can be amazing to stealth camp at. Some beaches you can actually pull out onto the sand and stealth camp, but one of the cons is that, well, you got to be careful about the sand because you could potentially get stuck, so be very careful about that. I use Max Tracks to pull myself out if I do get stuck, so I'll link those down below too so you can see what those are. But Max Tracks are recovery boards that you can shove up under your tires and get yourself unstuck, and it also has an edge on it where you can actually dig out the sand if you needed to. Or some of the pros are that, well, you're by the beach and it's also beautiful, beautiful, beautiful nature. You get to hear the waves crashing around you, and I don't know about you, but that lulls me to sleep, so I love it. The other thing is that it can be quiet too at night. Of course, that depends on where you're at. So again, what I was saying before about if you're closer to a town or a city, the beaches are places that people go to have fun and be out in nature and sometimes party, so you might hear some of those noises too. Some other cons is that, well, it can get crowded, especially if it's free beach camping. You might see a lot of people there depending on the season, depending on the region where you're at and how close it is to a city. I've parked in some places where it gets really crowded, and I've parked in some places that I was the only one out there. The other thing that you have to be careful about with beach camping is checking the tides. You want to make sure that you don't get so close to the water that in the middle of the night a tide's going to come in and, well, you're underwater. So be very, very, very careful. I cannot stress that enough about checking what the tides are for that season and when they go in and out, and make sure you pull your RV, your van, your car far enough away from the water's edge that in the middle of the night you're not going to have to worry at all. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family or your social media, wherever you like to share those things at. If you want to look at more stealth camping options and the ins and outs, the do's, the don'ts, is it illegal? Where is it illegal? Go ahead and click that video right here. And an extra special thank you to my Patreon members for going that extra mile to support my channel by joining my Story Chasing Patreon Insider community. You can get free early access to all of my videos, ads free, with a bunch of other cool content that I put on there. So click that button and join my Patreon. Keep story chasing, living your dreams, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.